And all of that is cloaked in whether you just like the guy or not. Well, I don't know if I like him, so I'm going to keep him out. Oh, yeah, and I heard steroid use one time. I'm talking about Hall of Famers in baseball, but not Bosworth. But Bosworth, it all comes down to them, these voters liking the guy or not. And I think, and this is strictly my opinion, but I think that the 30 for 30 got him over the top. And all of a sudden he looks a little more likable again. And that was just enough. Andrew Gilman joins us now on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. What do you think about that?
We've talked about this, Zach. We've talked a lot about it. If people like you, it makes life a lot easier. It just does. I mean,
it does.
There's a reason that,
But do you think that's the case with Brian Bosworth, though?
It's silliness. It's utter silliness that he wasn't in the College Football Hall of Fame before now. I mean, come on. The guy is one of the best ever. One of the best, So, but that stuff matters. I mean, your resume matters. If you treat people poorly, and the fact that media makes the news a lot of times, like, in other words, in the case of Baseball Hall of Fame, writers vote on this stuff, right? So and when media makes the news, it's always a little weird, and that's why I've never had a Heisman vote, but I would never want a Heisman vote. I voted for AP Top 25 one year in basketball, hated it. I just didn't like anything to do with it. But because that stuff matters so much, so when you're nice to someone, it colors your perception of them. And when Bosworth is the way he was, it rubs people the wrong way. And frankly, Barry Switzer didn't get in for a long time either. So
right,
I think a lot of people didn't like him.
Andrew Gilman with us in the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline on 107.7 The Franchise. Let's talk first about the offensive coordinator position at Oklahoma. Are you?
I feel like I need to go out to lunch every day now. You never know.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Look at you. By the way, did you get any sort of brushback from OU on that story at all?
How so? I mean, no would be the answer, but I don't know.
I'm like, did anybody try to deny it? I guess.
No.
Okay.
And in fact, I had another buddy call me later that night, and they were at a different restaurant for dinner. So we know.
Nice, a full day affair. Love it.
We know this about Sonny Cumbie. Maybe he doesn't know how to call plays, but he can eat with some gusto. Because if you've gone to the garage for lunch, you're not going for unless he had a veggie burger. That place, they serve some. I mean, it's a hearty meal. It's a hearty meal.
Right.
So
yeah.
He's eating dinner. Obviously, he's got a healthy appetite.
Well, I said on the show yesterday, I mean, there is no better place, in my opinion, to talk about the potential of a job, both for the employer, the potential employer, and the potential employee, than a burger joint.
And it's good. That place is good.
Yeah, and it's comfortable, and it takes everything in your being not to have a beer. I mean, that's the way you want to meet your potential
you want to
employer.
Find out how, if you can have a meal with someone, you want to know if you can coexist with them.
That's right.
Part of that is having a meal. The interesting thing is, I had a couple people on Twitter. The only brushback I had from that was on Twitter, where some people were like, "This seems really fishy. How come no one took a picture?" To which I responded, Sonny Cumbie is not Obama or George Clooney. People don't know what he looks like. You know what I mean? And frankly, and I say this to you specifically, Zach, do you know what Jay Boulware, do you know what he looks like?
No.
Do you know who Jerry Montgomery is? Do you know what he looks like?
Yes, I do. But, I mean, I get your point. Your point is, point taken.
The point is
you don't
that
know any
just
of these,
because you're sharing a restaurant with somebody else and you see a bunch of guys wearing OU pullovers, and Jerry Montgomery and Jay Boulware look like they could still go play. They look like they're young enough looking that they're like, oh, that's just a big guy wearing some OU stuff. Maybe he plays for the team. And Bob Stoops was not with them. So when Bob Stoops isn't there and you've got a bunch of semi-recognizable guys and then Sonny Cumbie, who no one recognizes, why would anyone even be alarmed, No,
I'm with you. Andrew Gilman with us here on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. Is there do you prefer a play caller over a guy like Sonny Cumbie?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm Bob Stoops at this point, let's do it two ways. If I'm an OU fan at this point, I think you're ready for some new blood. So you just want the best available. And if best available to you means Sonny Cumbie, and because of what he's done with Boykin and TCU, which is fairly remarkable. I mean, they became a great offensive team after not being very good at all the year before. Then I think you're excited about it. If you're Bob Stoops, I think that's a serious consideration. But you got to be a play caller at some point. I mean, you got to do it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where, like, you know, I think the other thing that I guess if I were an OU fan, it would just it would give me just a little pause, not enough to.
I don't think it would bother me now that I've thought about it. I don't think it would. I mean, it's not like he's never done anything similar.
Right.
It's not like he's only worked with the kicking team.
Yeah, the lack of play calling wouldn't bother me, to be honest with you. What would bother me just a little bit more, not enough to X Sonny Cumbie's name off, but what would bother me just a little bit more is the fact that this is his third. It would be his third different stop in as many years.
Well, keep this in mind, and I would give a slight rebuttal to this. One, he turned around Boykin, which is really good.
Right.
And you always want somebody that's in demand to go somewhere else, too, as an assistant. And three, he was at Texas Tech under, under Leach, played for Leach.
Yes,
and then
played for Leach.
Tuberville, and then retained by Kingsbury.
Right.
Yeah. So he was obviously desirable enough in a number of different ways to be retained. So I think that's a positive. And also the guy is a winner in the sense of his DNA is to throw the ball around, and I know OU doesn't have the personnel right now to go 4 wide, but his DNA has been he put up some great numbers at Tech as a quarterback, and you could say the same about Josh Heupel too. But if you want a guy that knows the passing game, and if you like passing, then that's your man. Now, if you want OU to go another direction and you think that they should do something different, whether you're Stoops or a fan, then maybe he's not your guy. But this guy wants to throw the ball around, but he can do a little of both with TCU as well. Andrew
Gilman with us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. All right, over to the Thunder. Is all of this this Scott Brooks seat is getting warmer talk justified?
I was going to ask you about that because I don't remember it being ratcheted up at all this season. I don't remember hearing much about it at all until the other night when someone mentioned, maybe it was you, that I think it was somebody else actually, that said the players seem to want to get Scott Brooks fired. And I saw that on Twitter, which is certainly not the end-all be-all of great sources, but someone said that the players weren't playing hard to try to get Scott Brooks fired, and I had never considered that before. Is there any credence in that?
Oh, gosh, I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
I can't imagine.
Why is the seat getting warm now as opposed to?
Look, you're scratching me.
Because they've lost 2 in a row. They played really badly.
Oh my gosh, they have been terrible. Like it's certainly the worst 2 games concurrently that I can remember the Thunder.
You know why though? You know why? I don't think it's Scott Brooks, but it's really simple. And I'm not a numbers guy like you have guys on all the time that are sharp on the metrics and salary caps and different things like that. And I'm not even an X's and O's guy, and I've said that a million times too. What I am, it's really simple to see. And this has been the case the last 5 years. If Durant plays poorly, they're in trouble. If Westbrook plays poorly, they're in trouble. If both of them play poorly, they're done. And they've just played their worst games of the season back to back, and both of them have done it.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like it's just.
Is that Scott Brooks or is that just?
And therein lies the problem. Like I think there's a lot of people out there that will go, well, these 2 guys played bad, so therefore it's impossible for them to play bad at the same time. It just never happens. So fire Brooks.
Yeah, and it does seem sort of impossible because when you have 2 guys, you think, well, all right, well Westbrook's off, but Durant will pick it up because that's been our experience.
Right.
And, Westbrook or Durant he goes out for a while and he doesn't play that good. And then suddenly Westbrook has 40 and 10, or something like that, which is not, uncommon for them to do that. But when Westbrook goes 3 of 19 with 7 turnovers in 27 minutes, and then Durant doesn't seem engaged, then that was the biggest thing to me was Durant didn't seem engaged. And that's not like him at all. Maybe something's going on. I shouldn't say that. I should say I'll find out if something's going on.
There you go.
How about that? Empower myself a little bit.
And the other point that I made today, and I'll leave you with this, I thought it would be after, like if we're going to be calling for firings or if his job is quote unquote on the line right now, I actually thought that he would have almost regardless of the finish that they would have this year. I thought that his job would be almost completely safe this year, more so than last year.
Because of the injuries?
Well, yeah, that. And, I mean, first, we got a lot of people saying that Scott Brooks, if he simply makes the playoffs, it's the best coaching job of his career. And he's only 4 games out with 49 left. And then number 2, I thought it would be after last season if the Thunder were truly thinking about getting rid of him, because the thing I think a lot of people don't think about as it pertains to getting a new head coach, and you tell me if I'm on the right track here, we've already seen what can happen when a superstar doesn't quite get along with the new head coach. I mean, you look at that with LeBron James right now and David Blatt and all that stuff, and that maybe it takes a little bit longer than one season to get things going between a superstar and a new coach. You really want to change coaches 1 year before the biggest decision of your franchise's history?
Well, maybe that's why – yes, that's a good point, but look at it from the other side. Maybe that's why you do want to change coaches to make sure that –
that's a hell of a gamble.
Well, it sure is, but this season, well, certainly next season is way more important than this season. But if the Thunder don't get it done or don't have some sort of improvement or show something significant, and they still could do that this year. I mean, there's no doubt that they could still win the championship this year. I don't think. I mean, I'm not saying that they're a favorite.
So your panic meter's low then? I mean,
my panic meter is fairly low, although I think they've blown a couple opportunities over the last week or so to make up some ground. But I don't see Scott Brooks doing anything different, but maybe that's an indictment of Scott Brooks. I don't know what he needs to do, but I think he's been fairly masterful this season in moving guys in and out. Does that mean they get a great look with 3 seconds left to play? No, but they've never done that. They've never been that guy. He's not a great X's and O's guy. And, I think managing personalities at the NBA level or Major League Baseball level or NFL level is very, very valuable and difficult to do, and I don't think people appreciate how hard it is to maybe have Westbrook and Durant and these personalities that are magnanimous in the locker room. It's not easy.
Yeah, no,
not easy.
I absolutely agree. I always use the analogy of, whenever you've got to hang out in a big long tube at 30,000 feet above the air, for 50, 60 times a year, you better get along. You better get along.
Or fake it.
Right.
And Scott Brooks' job is to not necessarily make sure they get along, but to make it look like they get along.
Yep, I'm with you. Amen.
And I really haven't paid attention to much of anything you've had to say today, I got to be honest with you. I'm disappointed that Todd's not here because we have a big Premier League weekend coming up. So I was sort of hoping to get some soccer talk in, and of course he's not there. And it's disappointing. But
well, I'm glad.
I hope your New Year's going really well.
I'm glad you said that. Why don't you fill in?
Todd is an international superstar. He's well-versed in Italian cuisine, Asian-made vehicles, and European soccer. Excuse me, football. But management frowns upon Todd's soccer talk. Screw it. Let's sneak in some real quick. Here's 10 seconds of soccer with Todd Lisenbee.
Gilman!
Starting now.
Todd, this one goes out to you, big fella. Huge weekend in the Premier League. Hope you get better. Can't wait to talk about soccer next week. Tottenham, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, all back in action. Looking forward to
seconds of soccer.
All right, see you later, buddy.